Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Holy smokes. I tell you, the devil, man, is a lie, and we have been fighting trying to get this stream back up. I accidentally clicked off. I ended the stream earlier, so hopefully those of y'all that were on, as far as Julios, Real Blythe, and Charlene, hopefully y'all are able to find this one. If not, I don't feel abandoned by you guys. Honestly, I still got a couple of things to get right here. I still got to put the Instagram live. I got to get this man's microphone back over here. But I just wanted to show you guys that, yes, we are still going live today. So give us about another 2 to 5-ish minutes and we'll be right back. All right. We're just going to have the timer here. All right, you guys. Welcome, folks. I am your host, Devontae Colonel, and we are here live with the Inspired Challenge podcast. Technical difficulties like crazy today, but you know what? That's all right. We're going to keep on moving, keep on pushing past, because today, you guys... All right, you guys. Welcome, folks. I am your host, Devontae Colonel, and okay. I think we're in full progress here.
Yeah.
Everybody that was in the chat before the stream started, I hope that you guys are able to make it back over. Everybody that is joining in, thank you for coming in. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to roll. So today, on today's episode, you guys, I'm excited. We have a gentleman that, well, let me just give you his name first. We have Mr. Go ahead, sir.
Austin Legg.
Austin Legg with us today, folks. So he is going to be recounting to us his testimony. But before we get into that, you know that we got to kind of cover some bases about some things going on with the podcast that are exciting and honestly a little surprising. So as everyone knows, first of all, if you're coming in, leave a like on the video and also type up in the chat where you're from. I don't know where a lot of you guys are from that are coming on the videos and are engaging in it. So I want to know where you guys are from. Come in, drop that in the chat. But also, those of you guys, and obviously specifically like Blythe and Charlene, y'all have been going crazy. I don't know what y'all are doing, but in the past 7 to 8 days alone, I think it's 7 days. From you guys alone, we started the previous 7 days at 1,105 followers, and we are now at 1,140. We've gained 35 followers, just word of mouth, purely off of you guys. And so I'm blown away. I don't know. I don't have words for it. And then for everybody that is new, that has come as a result of them, or that came just from some other means, thank you for joining in. There's Joanne. There's Mumsy Yed. There's Julios is a newer one. And so thank you guys all for coming in, for participating with this thing. I mean, this is the most that we've seen the numbers climb as far as watch time and organic subscribers and all that jazz. So thank you guys just for pushing so hard and like really making this a team effort, for the past year and month. It's been like heavy me with like the support of my wife, and now to actually have these people that we're going in lockstep, and it's like, I put out the stuff and then you guys let your people know. Man, this is I am beyond honored, humbled, blessed, just to have people like y'all in this community. And to the fact to say that there is a community growing from here is awesome to see. And so thank you guys so much for that. Now that I've gushed over you guys enough, I want to go ahead and set up my man Austin here to be able to introduce himself. So Austin, please tell the people your age, where you're from, relationship status, and what you do for work.
All right. Thanks, Devontae, for having me on the show. First off, my name is Austin Legg. I am 32 years old. Thankfully, I made it that far. I am married to my amazing, beautiful, lovely wife, Renee, and I am a lead installer and architect and heavy equipment operator for a wonderful company that believed in me and gave me a chance at Sundance Architectural. And it's just, life's been good. Life's been real good.
Awesome. And so you guys, the way that Austin and I met, we don't know each other from a networking event. We don't know each other from church. It's crazy. So if you guys remember, I had a guest on by the name of Al. And Al, his daughter is married to our man Austin here. And so that's how we know each other. I received a text message from his wife. Hey, you interviewed my dad. My husband has an awesome story. And I'm just like, okay, let's go. I'm all about it. And so here we are, maybe a week and a half, 2-ish weeks later.
Yeah, not even.
And yeah, you guys, because usually I try to book out 2 shows a week and then I'll leave the third day open just in case something happens. And turns out that practice paid off, because now we have a testimonial from our man Austin here. So I'm excited because Al was a great guest. And now to see sort of some of the branches from that conversation coming and giving us Austin, I'm just really curious to see what God has done in your life. The fact that, this is now a kind of 2-step generational thing. Yeah. This is my first 2-step generational, one person led to this person interview.
Amen.
So
God works in great ways, huh?
He does, man. He does. So you guys, without further ado, I want to go ahead and allow you guys to hear Austin's story. Austin, without interruption, man, tell us about you.
All right. Like I said, my name is Austin. I'm 32 years old, but
one quick thing.
So I'm 32 years old now, and up to this point, life was crazy. So I'll give you a brief rundown of my childhood real quick. So I grew up in a very rough family environment, even if you want to call it that. I was in foster care by the time I was 5 years old. My mom and my dad had alcohol problems, drug addictions, the whole nine. The foster care experience wasn't very happy for me up to that point. By the time I was five, my mom ended up getting me and my sister back. Things hadn't changed much. Went from my dad to another male who was, a little rough around the edges, to say the least. He was involved with a well-known biker club, and we'll leave it there. So it was very abusive. Lot of drug activity in and out of the house, a lot of violence. Was daily witnessing my mom being abused and beaten, severe injuries to her. Fast forward a couple years past that. By the time I was 7, watched my mom kill a man. And it was that same man that used to beat her. That was kind of a rough experience, witnessing that as a child, and it kind of stuck with me for a long time. And shortly after that, life went on as normal, as if, none of it even happened. My mom gets in another relationship, this time with another man who actually didn't seem so bad, but this just proves the point that looks can be deceiving. This man was a lot nicer than the other man she was with to me. You never heard them arguing or fighting. Everything seemed good. One morning we get woken up, and he ends up taking us to daycare, which was kind of unexpected. Not the typical or the norm, really. And I opened the door to my mom's room to say goodbye to her, and there on the bed was my mom. And at this point, I didn't understand what was happening until I got a little older, and through some therapy kind of figured it out. But my mom was dead, and so I witnessed, that, which impacted me for, a long time, and just kind of set up the path on which I was going to go as life progressed. Shortly after that, my sister and I go to live with some family in North Carolina, and all this with my mom happened in West Virginia. So we went to live with my uncle and his wife in North Carolina, and having done some, gone through the things that I did, as a child, with abuse, and there was also sexual abuse involved. I started to rebel a lot. By the time I was, say, 9, 10-ish, I was already smoking cigarettes. By the time I was 11, I'd already tried drinking. Was completely, out of it. By the time I was 12, I was already looking at porn. I mean, life was getting crazy, and it was getting crazy fast. It was like a snowball effect. It started rolling downhill, and then just started building that momentum until eventually it turned into this big snow boulder. And so by the time I'm 13, I've already been expelled from school. Everything was just kind of going real crazy for me. The depression hit me really hard around 13, and so I started doing some self-injurious behaviors like cutting and beating myself to the points where I was fed up. I was done. So I actually tried to kill myself. So at 13 years old, I'm in my room, and I tried to hang myself, and I blacked out. And somehow, it all came loose, and here I am still. But so my uncle ended up finding out, and, I busted some blood vessels in my face right here. So all this was blotchy and red, and let's just be honest, you're not hiding that. I don't care what you put on. And I'm at the dinner table. He's seen it and drops everything. He's like, what happened? I told him. And so I got admitted to a mental hospital where I lived for about 3.5 months. From there, though, I was just, too much. I had too many problems. My uncle and his wife just really couldn't handle me. And, I don't blame them. I'm not mad at them. I kind of, at my point in my life, I understand, not many people have the patience to kind of, deal with that, or even know how to deal with that, really. That's a lot. So I bounced around from group home to group home. By the time I was 14 years old, I had already joined a gang. I was already into trying to sell drugs. Probably had already been to about, in that 2-year period, from 13 on to 14 and a half to 15, I'd probably been in 15 facilities. It was like every year I was moving twice, 2 or 3 times a year, in and out of different schools. Wasn't making any friends, which just built up this anger and this rage of not feeling accepted or wanted and feeling rejected. And so it just kind of carried on with me throughout the years. And by the time I was 16, I had already caught in 2 charges. One was assault and battery. The other was drug paraphernalia charge. I was starting to smoke weed. I was on prescription medications when I broke my hand in this period of a year. I punched some walls and I got angry and finally it gave in on me. And the doctor prescribed me some Tylenol with codeine. Well, that's some pretty strong stuff. And any kid going through some things, that's usually going to be an out for them. And for me, it definitely was. So before I'd even started smoking weed, I'm already popping pills and snorting lines of crushed up pills. And, it was darker than I had started out. I was starting out smoking cigarettes, drinking, and now I skipped, all the softer stuff, if you will, and jumped straight to the hard, pills and painkillers. And so I was doing that. I was staying pretty high almost all the time. I was going to school high. Group home staff noticed it, brought it to my attention, brought it to the attention of, some of my caseworkers and managers and stuff like that. And I'm 15, almost 16 years old. I'm already in a drug therapies, going through these, trying to learn healthy coping mechanisms and, the side effects of using drugs, and which, I just didn't care. I'm just going to be honest. I didn't care. And so I kept doing it. I had to finish it because of probation. So I finished it, moved on, whatever. Now 16, I'm heavier in selling drugs through the group homes in the schools I'm going to. I had already repeated 9th grade 3 times because I kept getting expelled or suspended or moving. At this point, I'm in this group home where they moved me. Dude, Devon, let me tell you, it was in the sticks. Like the literal sticks, the boonies of North Carolina, where we had one gas station, one grocery store, and fields for miles. So, I'm used to growing up in the hood and in the city. I get out here and I'm just like, what am I even doing out here? Bro, I have horses in my backyard. I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't belong here. So, which I guess was smart on their end. It was, put him somewhere where there's nothing to do and maybe he won't find nothing to do. Didn't work. But I mean, I did, in this one place though, I did grow a little bit. I dropped out of high school and I was like, you know what? I'm going to move again. I got a little smarter with age and I went ahead and got my GED, so I thought things were kind of smoothing out, but no. In this GED program, there's, rough people just like me. So now I'm connecting with that crowd in this community and getting intermingled with them. And, so I'm smoking weed still. I'm still smoking cigarettes. Now I'm starting to drink again. And now I'm getting comfortable in this little bitty town where I'm finding the people who are like me and I'm connecting with them. And so in this group home, I ended up getting in trouble again with the law. Had the cops come and pretty much raid my room looking for drugs. All they could find were just drug paraphernalia, but they charged me with it. And so I got a misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. I had already finished the schooling at this point, so I'm just stuck at the group home all day, every day. I'm sneaking out, I'm smoking weed, I'm not listening, I'm fighting, I'm punching holes in the wall. Police are coming like every other week for me. I ran away once, but again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I ran and I ran and I ran, and I had nowhere to run but woods. And being 16 years old, you're like, where am I going to go in the woods? I don't know where I'm at. I don't know any of this stuff, man. So I get arrested and brought back to the group home again. This group home had enough of me, so I ended up getting moved across the state to the other direction towards the mountains, and now I'm in a state facility. It's like a level 3 group home where it's like you have no freedom. You can't go anywhere. You can't do nothing. You can't, hang out. It's like they've got eyes on you all the time. It's like juvie, just not. So I'm in this group home. At this point, rebellion was just straight up. I just did not give a crap about anything or anybody. I was just doing me and didn't care who I was hurting in the process. Depression was hitting hard. Being stuck in this house, not being able to do anything, everything coming back into my mind, all these memories, all these feelings. So I started self-mutilating, cutting myself, amped up on the drug use, started popping cough and cold medication of all things. But I mean, with these things, like I was getting so high, like I would fall down in front of staff. Let me tell you this one side story real quick, Devontae. I was in a drug program at my school. They sent me to this alternative school as a day treatment thing to kind of just get me out to further my education. And while in this drug program, I go to this drug program high as a kite, man. Like I can't walk straight. I mean, I felt like I was literally floating on clouds. I skipped out on this drug class. I walked across the street at school. I pulled out a cigarette and I just started smoking a cigarette. Before I could even finish my cigarette, I fell face first into the ground, passed right out. Dude, I was gone. And so I had these teachers carrying me back into the drug classroom, okay? I'm high. I'm on drugs. I'm in a drug class, okay? And I'm still just like, I don't care. And I'm walking in here, and so they had to call the staff to come get me, who ended up taking me to the hospital to have them, check me out to make sure that I was okay, bro. And it was just still, you'd think at that point, like, okay, maybe need to make some adjustments. I just didn't care. Like, as I was at such a level of not caring that I could end up dead or killing myself. I just wouldn't care. I didn't care about the environment I was putting myself in. I didn't care about the friends that I was hanging out with. I didn't care about the things I was putting in my body. I didn't care about the people I was hurting. I didn't care about the bridges I was burning. I just did not care. Fast forward a little bit, get me out of the group homes here. Now I'm 18 years old, and I'm aged out, and they're just like, oh, get out of here. See you. Good riddance to you. And I ended up going and living with this man in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was a foster parent who wanted to adopt and, was giving me a chance, at 18 years old to kind of bring me into his home and, try to get me on the right path. And still, for some reason, I was so ungrateful and selfish and lost. Like, I continued on the road that I was already on. I just kept going. I ended up finding the local gang around there and got involved with them. I started selling drugs again. I started doing drugs again. I mean, I'm fighting in the neighborhood constantly. I'm running the streets. I'm breaking into places and trying to rob them. I mean, like, I was not on a good path, bro. I was not anywhere where good things could come. And it was on me. It was the choices I was making. And, he was trying to get me to go to church, and I would fight it, and I just didn't want to go. And eventually he had to do what he had to do too. And he was like, I can't help you. You don't want to do anything with your life. So you've got to go. So now I'm 18 years old. I'm homeless. I'm living, on the streets for a little bit, where then my family from West Virginia decides to come down and help me out. I'm still on probation in North Carolina at this point. I'm still on probation. I'm still dealing with the charges that I was already charged with the drug paraphernalia a couple years ago. But after failing a couple drug tests, that 1 year probation ended up turning into like 2.5 years probation, all because of some more choices that I wanted to make. And so I'm in West Virginia. Again, the West Virginia, if you don't know, is very mountains, very country, very rural, very family populated towns. And my family, finally reached out, tried to, get me up there. They got me up there. And man, it was just like the same thing. I met my cousins who were a little younger than me, but were in that getting high partying scene. So, the gang stuff kind of got put on hold. I'm in, the country. There's no gangs up here, bro. There's no gangs up there. And so now we're robbing the Dollar Generals for their cold and cough medications. We're huffing paint. We're breaking into the old schools. We're smoking weed, laced weed with other drugs. Like, we're so high, we're walking into the grocery store and just like knocking everything over because we can't walk straight. I mean, at this point, I would have to say I was strung out. I was full-fledged strung out. I was stealing from my family to support my habit. I didn't want to get a job. I was stealing from the stores to support my habit. I mean, and then on top of that, I'm dragging my cousins down with me and, now getting them involved in these drugs that they had no idea existed until I came around, so now they were involved, and I'm burning everybody else's bridges because I've ran out of bridges of my own to burn. I got in trouble with the law in West Virginia. I'm on probation. They come and they arrest me because we robbed the Dollar General of like 20 boxes of triple C's, like pockets full. There's 5 of us. We're running from the cops. We're dipping in people's backyards. It's like a foot of snow on the ground. So we're trudging through the snow, and we think we got away. And so we slide down this hill. We're like, all right, cool. We're good. Whoop, whoop. all these cops just swarm around us. Like, there you are. We've been waiting for you. I was like, wow. So we get drugged down to the police station. We get booked. I told them that I was on probation. So that didn't go over well for me. And they ended up letting us go. Funny story about that was the cop that ended up arresting me was the same cop back when my mom was killed that took her case. So when he seen my name, he was like, "Are you Lena's boy?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was my mom." He's like, "Wow." He's like, "Just get out of here." Like, he literally finished his paperwork, unhooked me, and says, "Just go. Just get out of here."
Holy crap.
Yeah, and then I talked to my aunt about it. He's like, "Yeah." My aunt was like, "Yeah, that's the same cop that was running the investigation with your mom's murder." And I was like, "No way."
Wow.
So God blessing right here. Like, who would have thought that I would run into the same one who knew my family personally on such an extreme level like that was willing to just kind of let me go regardless of the charges I was facing, and didn't even charge me. Just, wrote the write-up and just let me go. But in all of this, I had to go back to North Carolina because of probation, and I got violated. And now there was like, you're at risk of just, eloping, of not showing up for your cases, getting in more trouble. So I get back to North Carolina, and my aunt drops me off with my bag. She gives me $20. She looks at me and says, "Good luck," and drives off. So I'm at my probations officer's office. I'm now looking at homelessness, nowhere to go, nobody in my corner, all alone. And this is where, like, in my opinion, my story really starts to get the darkest. Like, even darker than drug use, even darker than, suicide attempts and abuse and murder, like even darker than, witnessing abuse. Like, it was probably, to me, it was like the turning point of where like things got real bad. Now I'm homeless. I'm staying in a homeless shelter, and if I can't get in there, I'm sleeping in sterile cases at apartments in the hood in Raleigh, North Carolina, and just roaming the streets pretty much all day long and walking around aimlessly, not sure where to go. I lost all hope. I was torn. Like, I had no hope. I was sad. I was uncertain. I was depressed at like its highest level of depression. I had started seeing things that, I thought I would never see again. Like, I watched a man get stabbed over food, and things like that was happening around me. I was so lost. I was so confused. I was so, misguided and directed in where I was going that, I ended up meeting some people in the streets who weren't good characters, obviously. I mean, if you're on the streets, you're there for a reason. This one older gentleman allowed me to start staying with him, but it came with a cost. And this is a kind of a part of my story I don't really like to talk so much about because there's more shame in it than anything else. But I also know that there's such power in our testimony, right? And there's things that we all go through on different scales. I started to give those favors in order to have a roof over my head. And I'm 18 years old, and now because I'm doing this, I am a full-fledged alcoholic. I mean, I'm hanging in the projects with some killers, dope dealers. I mean, it's the sketchiest people I've ever been around. And I was cool with it, I was cool with it because they were providing me what I needed. They were providing me that out mentally. They were providing me with drugs. They were providing me with alcohol, and an escape. They were providing me with an escape. And so, like, every day I was there and I was drinking. Vodka was my drink of choice. I was drinking a bottle a day just by myself, and then going and getting beer. And like, so I was staying so drunk that I'd wake up the next morning drunk, still drunk, not even touching a drip of alcohol yet. And, just running the streets still. And this continued on for about 6 months until I met somebody and I got in a relationship with her, and, things seemed great. And, now I'm living, on her side of town with her and her mom. And what do? I find the local gang members, I find the local hangout people, and I start partying again. I start smoking, I start drinking, I start selling drugs again. Like, it was just like a cycle. And I just jumped right back in the loop. I was like, all right, here's where I left off. Hop back in there. And I hop back in there, and now I'm a drug addict again. Now I'm a full-fledged alcoholic and a drug addict. Now I'm, selling drugs, getting in fights again. Like, living with some people that were very, very sketchy. And so this story is, kind of where things just, again, bad choices. And like, she's cheating on me. I don't care. She ends up getting pregnant with my son. And I try to settle down. It doesn't work. And so we ended up breaking it off, after some, fighting between her and I was constant. Of course, her cheating on me didn't help any. I mean, I ended up putting my hands on her. She even came at me with a knife, like come at me with one of those big butcher knives. Like, so I was like this close to getting stabbed, and I just didn't care. Like, I mean, who has a knife coming at them and doesn't at some point wake up? That was me. I didn't wake up. I didn't care. What I decided to do was dive deeper. So left that, broke that off, bro. Now I'm full-fledged, no kid, no tie downs. I have a minivan I'm sleeping in. I'm going from one house to another. Trap house after trap house after trap house. Party after party, drink after drink. Now I'm on ecstasy. Now I'm on cocaine. Now I'm doing Molly. Now I'm drinking. Now I'm smoking weed constantly like it was cigarettes. I'm selling more weed than I've ever sold in my life. I'm trafficking this stuff from one county to another. And I'm not talking like little bags. Like I'm talking a half brick at this point. Like I'm taking this stuff and I'm just getting rid of it. And I'm partying all the time. And like I was the life of the party. I was accepted for once, and obviously now I realize that was because of what I was bringing, not because of me. It was what I had, and it was, I had what they wanted. I was the dope boy, so they wanted what I had, not me. But I mean, I finally get up with my big homie, and he lets me stay in his house, and like, well, his house is what I call the trap house. Well, I had 6 other homies, him, his wife, his family's living there. Like, this is a place where deals are going down. Everything's coming in and out of it. Everybody's coming in and out of it. I mean, we're partying every night of the week. I mean, waking up doing lines of coke and then right back at it again. It was rough, bro. Like, looking back now, I'm just like, how did I even like stay here? How did I survive as long as I did? How did I not get shot or stabbed or arrested or any of these things, at this point in my life? Bro, at this point, I'm only like 22 years old. Like, I'm only 22 years old, bro. Like, I mean, I'm still a young gun. You know what I'm saying? And like, all this has happened from a teenage on to this, like in like a 10-year period. I've already hit the streets the way most people are hitting the streets by their 30s. Like I'm in there, bro. I was plugged in. I knew people, like I knew all the right people according to back. Like I wasn't in a predicament of success or survival. Okay, so I'm 22, and I mean, finally I'm getting pulled over. Me and the boys, I remember this story very vividly. Me and the boys, there's like 6 of us in this car, bro. None of us were wearing seatbelts, and I'm just gonna be real with you. I was the only white boy in the car. Okay, and I'm driving the car. We just left a liquor store. It's any cop, bro. That's not, I mean, let's just keep it 100 right now. That's just not a good situation, okay? I mean, you might as well put a sign in your car that says, pull me over, okay? So they pull me over. I got a gram of cocaine in my pocket. Luckily, it's a motorcycle cop. We definitely outnumber him. So he just kind of runs my name, and he looks at everybody else and, doesn't search me, none of that. I'm just like, okay, lets me go. He lets all of us go. Like, doesn't even write us a ticket, bro. Like, just lets us go. Yeah. To this day, I don't understand why or how that happened. Obviously, it's a God thing for sure. But I'm just like, that makes no sense. You know what I mean? But anyways, what do? We go straight back to the trap house, and we start drinking, we start partying, we start snorting stuff, we start popping stuff. We keep going crazy. We keep doing, what we were already doing before we got that little intervention from the officer. And so this is how I was living probably for like the next year, bro. And then like I'm 23, I had met this girl when I was like 20, right before I turned 21, and kind of like we were partying together and like we were hanging out together. And it was just kind of a hookup thing that ended up turning into something else. But even with her, like I'm snorting pills, I'm snorting coke, we're just alcohol. It's just toxic all the way around. And like she ends up getting pregnant. And I have another son. And
there's 2 at that time.
This is 2 at this time, yeah. So at this time I try. Like I try. You know, I'm like, all right, I got to calm down a little bit. You know, I got to start being a little more serious, start thinking about my son at this point. I was so selfish, bro. I was so selfish. And to this day, it eats me up. And thank the Lord that he's forgiven me of it, because even to this day, it's still hard for me to kind of forgive myself. You know what I mean? And I'm working 3 jobs so she can be pregnant and not do anything. I mean, I slowed down on the drug use. I was still smoking weed. I was still drinking occasionally. But I wasn't, you know, partying. I wasn't getting high and drinking the way I was. So in my opinion, at that point, I'm doing good. I worked one time, like 3 days straight, no sleep, one job to another job to another job, bro. I wrecked my car, almost died. I totaled my car. I had mailboxes flying through my windshield, a big metal rod cutting in through the driver's side of my car. Yeah, I mean, God saved me, bro. Like, for sure on that one. I mean, airbags didn't even deploy. Like, I woke up to a mailbox literally like right here in my face through my windshield. And state trooper comes, lets me go. Bro, yeah, I told him how I had just left my 3rd job, how, you know, the woman I was with was pregnant and all this. God just lets me go. Wow. And he's like, I'll take care of getting the tow truck out here. I'll get it cleaned up. And then, you know, I'll send everything through the mail to you. Just go home. Bro, I'm just like, wow. So I went home, I got some sleep, you know, and then I had to quit a job. And after feeling like I wasn't able to provide, I looked for that escape again. So I started drinking a lot more. I started smoking weed. I started popping pills again and doing the triple C's again. And, you know, and now I'm stepping out in my relationship. I'm being promiscuous. I'm going to work high as a kite. Like, shouldn't be driving, shouldn't be working, and I'm going anyways. I mean, I'm so out of my mind on drugs. Like, I'm constantly swerving in the car. I'm putting everybody else at danger. I put myself at danger. And this is how it was. Like, if she intervened and tried to say something to me, bro, it got violent. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to keep it 100% raw right now. Like, I got physical. I would break stuff. I would push her. I wasn't changing. You know, I was like, no, I'm done. I'm not changing for you. I just completely gave up and was a mess. I was a complete mess. I let darkness in, and I just, at that point, like, I was good with just letting it take its hold, take its course, do what you need to do. And, you know, this is how it was, you know, even while she was pregnant, you know, and like, still to this day, that's probably like one of the saddest parts. And I look back and I'm like, wow, you know, like, I was okay with doing that, you know? And even after she had him, you know, now we were codependent when we got together. And so we stayed that way. After she got pregnant, went right back to the way it was. Drugs, alcohol, you know, instability, you know, bouncing from one place to live to another place to live, spending all of our bill money on drugs and alcohol and a good time. You know, like, my son's asleep in the car, me and her at a bar, we're drinking with our friends, we're smoking with our friends, and we're doing lines of coke. You know, and then we're driving him back home at like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, not good stuff, bro. Not good at all. And so for like the next 8 years with her, this was our life. Drugs, alcohol, violence, aggression, destruction, chaos. And, you know, I got arrested once in North Carolina for domestic violence with her. I got arrested again in Maine for domestic violence with her. I got arrested again in Florida for domestic violence with her. And this is the last time. This is where things get interesting. Okay. So about two and a half years ago, I was so hard on the drugs. I started at this job as a landscape company, and, you know, one of those mindsets, oh, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna do better. You know, it's kind of the addict's anthem. I'm gonna change, I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna do better. And it's just a cycle that goes right back. So I find the wrong people, and I get intertwined with their gang, and then I get intertwined with selling them weed. And that's where it starts. It always started that place for me. I would start selling them weed. And then, bro, I mean, I was making, just in 2 hours of being at work before work even really started, I was making $150 every morning, Monday through Friday, just on selling weed. And then I was working all day and making that. And then, you know, continue to do that. And then I'm selling on the side, and I'm, you know, getting up and going back to work, and I'm doing this. All right. And we get into Molly. Really bad. It started out, low key, and then it went way sour really, really quick. And now I'm doing like 3 grams of Molly a day. I'm staying so yopped up. I'm not eating. I'm not drinking. I'm not sleeping. I'm working constantly. I'm selling weed. Like, I about passed out at work at one point, working in the sun. Like, no water in my body, no food in my body. I'm just doing lines to get by. And some things happened in between her and I where domestic violence got started again over, drugs. At this point, it was over drugs. And so I ended up leaving because DHS gets involved because of our son and reports being made. So I leave and I go live in a tent in the woods. But I'm still coming back, bro. And we're getting high together every night still. With everything that's going on, we're still getting high together. We're still doing this. And now I'm trying to take it a step further. All right, so I started out selling weed, and now I'm binging on Molly. I've probably been on Molly nonstop for about 3 months straight, like every day, Molly'd out. I'm like, all right, I want to do something bigger. All right, so I started linking up with this guy from work, and him and I we become real close. And so I get an 8 ball of cocaine, and me and him are traveling back and forth, to Fort Lauderdale every weekend. Bro, I'm dropping like $500 a night in a bar. Easy. And it's not fazing me, and I'm just dropping it. Boom, done. Go back to work, make that money back, hit it again. Yeah. And so I get this 8 ball of cocaine, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a power move. I'm going to hurry up and sell this and, see how that plays out. And then that's the new game I'm going to be in, And so I get down to Fort Lauderdale, we're partying, we're drinking, whatever, got rid of a bag or two, nothing crazy. I ended up doing almost the whole 8 ball by myself. Gee. Blew that money in the bar, blew that money on the gas there, blew that money on this cocaine and all this stuff, bro. And I'm now at this point, I will say I was a full-fledged addict. Now it wasn't even about making money off this stuff. Now it was just about supplying my habit, being an alcoholic and a drug addict. And so, bro, we're toting illegal guns back and forth across Florida. I'm toting marijuana back and forth, really sketchy. Really, really sketchy, bro. And so finally it catches up to me one night. Me and my son's mom were getting high again. And it goes early into the morning to about 2:00. And, she thinks I'm hiding drugs on her. Like taking some of hers and hiding it from her. That's, what drugs do to you. It makes you very paranoid. And so she starts pushing, and I start pushing her back. She came at me with a knife. Second woman in my life to do it to me. And, diffused that situation, thank God. And then I'm walking out the door to actually leave. Like, I was like, I'm just going to leave, go do my drugs by myself. So I'm walking out the door to leave. She pushes me, and then I turn and I just swing. Busted her whole nose open, and now, reality set in a little bit for me. It was a sobering moment. I was like, oh, crap. Took off. And that day was the same day I get arrested, but up to that point, I am literally running, ducking, dodging, and hiding from the cops for 6-7 hours nonstop, running up and down the OBT in Oak Ridge, hiding in and out of every hood that I can find, for the places I knew the cops weren't going to come just to look for somebody. And I did this. And when I fled, I had 2 grams of Molly on me in a rock. I had 9 or 10 grams of marijuana on me, individually bagged up, ready for sale. I had a scale. I had more baggies on me. I was set up to go to get some felony charges for sure. So what I did was, knowing that the outcome was probably going to be me getting arrested, I didn't want to get caught with this stuff. So this guy was sleeping in an alleyway, and I woke him up. I was like, "Hey, bro, you smoke weed?" He's like, "Yeah." I threw him 9 bags. So I gave him 9 grams of weed. I was like, "I'm gonna keep 1 gram for myself, and I'm gonna go smoke." But I gave him 9 grams of weed. He's like, "Well, you got any?" I said, "Molly?" I said, boom. I gave him the 2 gram rock. I said, "Here you go, take it." And I just went about my way, and I just kept running and ducking and dodging. I had a hotel for the day, but I couldn't check in until 11. So now I'm just playing my cards right. I'm like, well, if I just stay hidden until then I'll be able to check into my room, and then I can relax and figure out a game plan from there, bro. And I went back to the gas station after, about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, after I had already been running for about 7 or 8 hours. So I go in the store, I buy a pack of cigarettes, I buy a blunt wrap, and I go out to the gas station on the side, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to roll a blunt, I'm going to smoke, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. No sooner than I lit the cigarette and I grabbed the bag of weed out of my pocket, here comes a cop pulling up into the parking lot. And I knew, as soon as I seen the cop, I knew he was coming for me. I knew he was going to come and start talking to me. So I had to throw this baggie, just ditch. I was like, oh, nope, ditched it, got rid of it. And so he comes over, he tries to ask me my name. I give him a fake name. I give him my dad's name. My dad is deceased, but I give him my dad's name. And so he radios in and he's like, does he have any identifying marks? And so he's like, a tattoo on his neck. What does the tattoo say? And it's an AB. So he's like, let me see your neck. So I turned to this side. I was like, I don't have a tattoo on my neck. He's like, let me see the other side. And I was like, and he's seen the tattoo and he's like, see, why'd you even try to lie? I was like, well, I mean, can you blame me? I mean, can you really blame me? And now I'm cussing out the cop, like, just because I got busted, I got caught. I'm in the back of his SUV. And I'm just like, he's asking me questions. I'm like, man, you pig, da 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 da. It's like, just take me to jail and book me. Let's get this over with. I don't even want to be in your car. Like, I went straight ghetto, straight hood on him. Like, I did not care. So he pulls up into the station. He gets me out. He, does his paperwork. He leaves. So I'm sitting in there. I'm just like, oh man, now I'm in here. I don't even know how long I'm going to be in here. They're undressing me and all that good stuff. They're making me put on their little jumpsuit. And they ended up making me, because I was mouthy, they ended up making me spend the night in the ice box, which, for those that don't know, it's like almost like solitary confinement, except for it's this one room they usually put people who are drunk or high for sobering up. And it's literally like 50 degrees in here. Like, they freeze you out. Okay. They completely freeze you out. And I spend the next 3 hours in here. They put me in a cell, finally, upstairs. And I'm in this cell, dude, and I'm in lockdown 23 hours a day. I only get out of my cell 1 hour a day. There's 3 other guys in the cell with me, so there's a total of 4 of us, but we're on lockdown, dude. And so I'm in there, and I kind of, know where these guys are from, because I used to run through there, so I used to run the hood around them, and we're talking about, making moves when we get out. So here it is. I got arrested for domestic violence and drugs. Now I'm talking to guys about getting back out of here, getting more drugs to sell and to get high on. So not rationally thinking at all. Like, I'm so stuck in where I am in this demonic phase. Like, I just kept digging the freaking hole deeper, bro. Like, somebody should have just taken the shovel from me. And so we're sitting here, we're talking about this, and and for the first 2.5, 3 weeks that I'm in the cell with these guys and I'm locked up, like, that was our conversations. Like, we were just talking about getting high and selling drugs and making money and gangs and all this, bro. Well, one guy gets let out of our cell and they bring in another guy. And this guy was like Romanian, really strange to see in the jail cell in Florida. There was like this Romanian guy who you just looked at him. You're like, bro, you do not belong in jail. Like, what did you possibly do to get arrested? And I asked him, I was like, what are you in for? Dude tells me he was charged with 3 charges of assault. 2 of them were felony because they were assaulting an officer. And I was like, bro, get comfortable. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be here for a while. I just want you to prepare yourself. Assault on an officer, they're showing up for court. They're going to follow through with those charges. From my experience, that's just what's going to happen. And so he kind of takes it and accepts it. And, a couple of days of him in the cell goes by, and, me and the guys are still shooting the wind and still, talking about the things that we're talking about and making plans. And so, this guy, he's like, what can I get books? And I was like, yeah, you just got to put a request form in. So he requests some books, and they give him 2 books. You ready? This is where we start to make our turn, okay? One book was called God's Prescription to Healing, okay? The other book was the Holy Bible. Yeah, bro. So he starts...
Real quick, this is the only sound effect I'm going to make for this whole thing.
Yeah, so he starts to read his books, man, and... he asked me, I remember this question so clearly. It's not even the question I remember. It's my response to the question. He asked me, he's like, have you ever read the Bible? And yeah, I've had people in and out of my lives try to get me into church and, to read the Bible. And I just, no. One reason is like, I just felt so judged walking into church, and into church is like, when you look at me, you don't see a typical Sunday Christian kind of guy, and so I didn't want to go. I would always pull away. And I was like, yeah, I've read the Bible a little bit here and there. I was like, He's like, well, do you believe there's a God? I was like, I know there's God. He's like, I know there's a God. I said, but I don't want anything from him. I was like, I know where I'm going when I leave this world, and I'm okay with it. I was like, I am completely evil and dark, and I'm good with that. He left me alone. He did not ever ask me anything again about the Bible. I mean, it chills me even now here, remembering my response to him. Like, I can imagine how it must have came off to him, or somebody else receiving that. Like, I knew where I was going. I was like, and I'm good with it. I'm good with it, bro. Like, I said that I was good with going to hell. I'm pretty much just saying Satan's my master. I'm good with that, bro. Mm-hmm. And this is a miracle in itself. A week or two later, this guy, they call his name and they ask him to come out and talk to him. So he goes out to the COs, he starts talking to him, and he comes back in with a smile on his face. And I was like, what's up? He's like, they're letting me go. They're dropping the charges. I was like, what? It's like, bro, I've been in here for almost 40 days and I still don't even know how long I haven't been sentenced or anything, and you're getting to get let go of? I was like, bro, that's so crazy. I've become envious and a little jealous, like angry about that.
This is the same guy that got in for beating 2 officers who asked you about God.
Yes. A Romanian guy, bro. Like, just completely does not fit in, And so he packs all of his stuff real quick and he left the books on our little desk. He left them there. He's like, all right, guys, bye. See you later. Thanks for everything. Hauled butt out of that jail cell so quick, bro. Like, left a bunch of stuff. He didn't even care. Like, I would have too, though. He hauled butt out of there. And so, I mean, I'm kind of like festering anger inside of me from this. Like, I'm upset. I'm getting, like, why? Like, dude's on two felony charges. I'm booked on 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been here for like 2.5, 3 weeks, bro, and he's gone already. Like, what is going on? So, I mean, me and the guys go back to the norm. We're playing cards. We're talking about what we was already talking about. Buying guns at this point is getting thrown in there. Like, it even went a little step further, So now we're talking about drugs and guns. And I just couldn't shake the fact that I kept hearing my name. I just kept hearing my name. Austin. Like a whisper, like a small, still, peaceful whisper. Austin. Austin. And I just was like, whatever, for like first couple of days. But it just didn't stop. It was still Austin. Austin. So, and it hit me. I was like, God, I'm not picking up the Bible. Straight up said, I was like, I'm not picking it up. I don't want it. I know what's going to happen. I don't want it. He didn't stop. Austin. Now, mind you, I'm in this jail cell 23 hours a day. Some days 24. Some days they're like, nah, you're not coming out. Okay, so all day from the time I wake up till I go to sleep, I'm hearing my name. And I mean, it's not necessarily an audible hearing, but I'm hearing my name. You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing it in my heart. I'm hearing the Lord call me. And I'm like, no. Straight up telling him no. Fighting that every way that I can. I'm sleeping all day long to ignore the voice. I mean, but then at a point, I'm running out of even my eyes being able to close. Like, I don't have any more rest in me. Like, I have every bit of energy I need. So now I'm up and I'm just, so a week and a half, 2 weeks go by, bro. And I just kept hearing, I was like, fine. All right, fine. All right, so I don't pick up the Bible at first, though. I pick up the other one, God's Prescription to Healing. I was like, I find a loophole here. Watch this. So I start reading this one. No. Austin. Can still hear it. Austin. Bro, I'm like 5 chapters in this book. I'm like, nope, if I just keep reading, it'll drown the voice out. So I keep reading, but it's all about God and healing and how we need God to heal. And so it softened me a little bit. So finally, I go and I pick up the Bible. I open it to Matthew, and I read some of Matthew. I get all the way to chapter 11, and nothing's really changed. I'm not allowing it to. My heart is still hard, like Pharaoh. My heart's hard. Nope, I'm going to read it. I'm going to go ahead and just get this over with so that way I can go right back to what I was doing. You'll leave me alone. That was my goal. That was my plan. Just to appease God, do what he was, calling me to do. Then I can just say, okay, I did it. Leave me alone. And I get to Matthew 11, verse 28, where Jesus tells his people, he says, come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burden, and I will give you rest. Instantly, bro. Instantly. Even to this day, I get chills. Instantly, I felt like rock break on my heart. I just felt it break. I felt this weight come off of me. Now I'm in this jail cell. I am on my knees. My hands are in the air, and I am bawling, crying. I mean, ugly crying, snot, the whole nine. I mean, ugly crying. And I said, Jesus, I accept you. I need you. And I spent all this time fighting it. And I was like, I know that you have been there from day one watching out for me. That's the only reason. I said, I can't keep doing this. I was like, Lord, I need you. I want you. I can't. So I accepted Christ. On August 23rd, 2021, I accepted Christ in the middle of a jail cell. Just the same person up to that point I had been fighting, not just in this jail cell, but my whole life. Ignoring the call that God was saying, it was calling me. He wanted me to come, and I was like, no, 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 no. And instantly it went from Saul to Paul. I stopped cussing. I stopped craving drugs. I stopped having conversations about drug dealing. I stopped talking about guns. I mean, now I'm reading the Bible and I'm ministering to the men that I'm in jail with. Wow. The same one that was just having a conversation with them about buying some cocaine to go flip and sell it. The same one that was sitting here talking to them about buying some AK-47s and some AR-15s so we can go do some sketchy stuff. That guy was now talking to these same people about Jesus Christ. Literally from Saul to Paul. And so I'm sitting here and I still have no idea what's going on with my charges. Like, I'm just kind of sitting in limbo, like not sure what's going to happen. Nobody's talked to me. I haven't gone to court, none of that. And so I started to pray. Like, I was like, Lord, and at this point I took responsibility for everything in my life. And I told the Lord, I said, I know that it's my fault. I can point the finger at anything and any reason. And I have several things that I could blame it on. So, but the truth is, I made choices and I accept that responsibility. But I just need to know what's going to happen here in jail. If I got to sit and face time, I'm okay with that. But the not knowing is burdening me. And so he talked back to me and he says, what I want you to do is I want you to read the New Testament 3 times. And on the 3rd time, when you've finished it, you'll be let go. You know what I mean? I was like, but what do I got to lose? I'm reading it anyway. So at that point right there, I had already read it once, but at that point I started over. I was like, okay, here's one. And I read it once. I read it twice. And I read it the 3rd time. The 3rd time I finished it and I closed the book finally. I had Revelations, finished all the New Testament. Now I've read it 3 times, closed the book. It was about 10:30 at night. And instantly I was like, all right, Lord, I'm done. What's up? You said you were going to let me go. So I was expecting, the doors to fling open like you did with Peter in the prisons, like fling open. I was just going to walk out. Nothing. And I got a little disappointed, but my spirit wouldn't let me stay that way. I was like, you know what, Lord? You said you're going to do something. You're going to do it. You didn't say it was going to be immediately or anything. You didn't say it was going to be the same day. You just said after. So I found this peace. And I was like, however you're going to do it, I trust you. I went to bed. I woke up at 12:30 with my name being called over the intercom. Midnight now, not 12:30 the next day, 12:30 at night. They don't let people go that late. All right, unless you were just booked in and you bail out, right? You just came in on arrest and you can bail yourself out. Legg, pack your stuff, you're going home. Bro, I jumped up, I packed my stuff so quick. I left like some of my commissary food behind and all that. The one thing I did grab though was that Bible. Jeez. Bro, and at 12:30 at night in Orange County Jail on 33rd Street, I was released. And ever since that day right there, life changed for me. I no longer live for myself. I have been sober. I had a backslide shortly after. I started smoking weed and I'd have a beer occasionally and I just couldn't do it. I was like, Lord, you've done so much for me in my life. I cannot accept this in my life anymore. Stopped instantly. I went back to the woman I was with before I went to jail. And 2 months maybe. And because the Lord had already told me, like, that's not what I have for you. And I left again. I went back to being homeless, living in a tent, no car. I'm riding the bus, but I was happy. I was at peace. The Lord gave me a job. I got a job at a 7-Eleven gas station working overnights. And hold on. First off, let me say this. So I went back to landscaping the very next day after getting out of jail. I got my job back. So I was going to go back to the same landscape company where I was selling drugs and doing this, the sketchy stuff that got me pretty much where I was to begin with, right? So I go back, I work maybe 4 days. Within those 4 days, I had 2 people threaten to shoot me. 2. Within 4 days, my life was threatened twice. And that second time, I was like, all right, I'm out. I literally just left. I was like, no, dude, I quit. I'm out. And I left. I got back on the bus, had no idea what I was going to do for money, had no idea what was, how to do anything, but I knew I made the right choice. And I knew that God had me. I never went hungry, never went without anything. I had. Then I got a job at 7-Eleven. Now I'm working this job. And this is just as important about my testimony as the bad things are, because it doesn't just show and highlight, what gets you to God. Now it shows you when you actually come to God and you give him a full-fledged surrender, what he wants to do. He says, I've given you a life that, to prosper, to do good. I want you to do good in life. He wants good things for his kids, right? So I trusted him 100%. And I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm just going to trust you. You're going to make a way as you always have, and I'll be okay. And I full-fledged believe that. And so a couple weeks later, I get a job at 7-Eleven. This isn't my typical type of work. I'm a landscaper, a construction guy, a laborer. And start working this job. I'm working a lot. I'm working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. But let me tell you what happened out of that. I got to minister to a Muslim who owned the store. I got to minister to some people there in the store that worked there and people coming in and out. Not only that, within a 2-month period, now I'm out of my tent in the woods. I'm living in an extended stay, which is like a studio apartment where I have my own kitchen and everything. I'm living there. I'm paying all my own bills. I'm no longer riding the bus because I got a car. I got a savings account with a couple $1,000s that was in it at this point. God really picked me up and put me on my feet. Dang. And I just kept that momentum. Shortly after, longer story short, I'm in a church. I'm involved. I met my wife, which is a whole nother story I'd love to share with you another day. But I met my wife. We met and were married within 2 months.
Wow.
Yes. And now I have another job where now I'm a lead, meaning I am a supervisor. I started out at the ground at this job. This isn't 7-Eleven. I moved on to another job, an awning company. And I'm a supervisor. I have my own work truck there. I work at all the theme parks. I get to design and have things built that I install later. I get to operate some heavy machinery, and I just keep moving up. This is the longest I've ever held a job in my life, going on 2 years. Going on 2 years, and that's not a long time. So you can imagine having a job where I'm saying this is the longest job I've ever held consistently in my life. 2 years isn't a long time, right? But it's a step.
Oh yeah,
it's a big step considering where I was. And so, now me and my wife, we have a house we're renting out in Altamont Springs. We have a backyard. I have the white picket fence life right now, and it doesn't mean I don't have my trials or my tribulations, or, I don't go through things still and I don't face temptations, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But on that day, August 23rd, 2021, my life literally flipped from one way to another. Like on the road to Damascus, where Paul was going to persecute, imprison, and kill. The Lord came and changed him from that to minister, teach, and preach. That's what the Lord did to me. Drug addict, gun-toting, roughneck, and flipped me and says, now you're my soldier. Now you're going to work for me. Now you're going to sell my rock, which is Christ Jesus.
Dang.
And that is, my story.
You guys, one time for God and Jesus. Wow. That is insanity, man.
Yeah.
I am so glad your wife hit me up.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. You are literally a walking miracle right now.
Yeah. And there's other little things in my story, that I feel maybe a little more too graphic for this. There was, if you don't mind, I'll share it real quick.
Sure.
Okay. There was a point in my life where, with all these drugs, I was in a sexual bondage, if that makes sense. And if not, I think the Lord will highlight who it needs to go to. But there were choices I was making sexually that aren't good choices. Okay. I was into men, into the transvestite or transsexual, whatever that proper word is. No offense, but I was into that. And the more I got high, the more into that I got than to women. But here's the thing. When Jesus raptured me and took me from one to another, that all went away too. So It's something that, again, it's one of those things like you're like, I don't want to share, but I also don't want to hold back the power God can have in that one, just that one tidbit. You know, like we're in a world where there's rejection and confusion all over the place in many different forms. And it's like, if someone like me, and there's others out there, I'm sure, have a similar story, but don't want to share because of that shame that comes from it, you're holding back that talent that God's given you.
100%.
You know, and you have no idea whose life that could affect or how much clarity you could shine on just that one person who needs it. So there it is.
Yeah, man. Definitely a big round of applause for you for doggone the willingness to give that piece for someone to be able to relate to.
Yeah.
Because, people can feel like, man, there is no turning back, coming back from certain actions. And now to be able to see someone who has been in all of that to a degree that they probably can't even imagine and could still make it back it's huge, man.
Yeah.
At this time, we're gonna take a look at the chat real quick and just see like how's the audience been taking your story and whatnot. Oh man. So we've got That's Majestic. Man. Oh wow. Thank you guys. Oh my goodness. Friend, you're a warrior, says Charlene. Thank you for sharing your story, says Shally. Charlene says, I've never been this amazed with how somebody changed. Cheers, mate. And Love and Leather says, yes, I love my husband. So proud of your testimony, baby. One time for the wife. Let's go. Wow.
Oh man, I kind of seen it. I was like, no, she didn't. I was like, please. But no, yeah, I love my wife. She is amazing, guys, and she is the reason that I'm here sharing with you. Man. She really pushes me to share. So,
dude, no, that is so now at this time, I mean, man, I've got so many notes that I've taken throughout the course of everything. And like, I mean, I'm trying to keep a note of the time as well. Okay, man, because with the time that we're at, darn it, we have like 25 minutes. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna go for what we can, man.
I'll keep it sweet and simple. All right.
Man, so you had so much there, like, and it starts from everything with the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
And like, so, oh man, I really don't know how to go with this. You had mentioned at a certain point that there was one gentleman that tried to take you to church here and there. During those experiences, was that how much did you attend when he would try to pull you to it?
Oh, the foster parent, never.
Never?
I think maybe I went once, but like, no, I would purposely sleep in or be out and roaming the streets. Like, I just wasn't, no. You know, I guess it's because something inside knew, like, if I go to church, something's going to change. And I was like, I don't know if I want that change.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And then, so when you were in the prison cell, jail cell, how did, like, so when someone hears that call, sometimes people may think like, oh, you heard something on your heart, but that may have been like an influence because of an experience that you had where in the past. Did you have any reference point to look back at where?
You know, like I said, I had kind of gone to church, so I kind of had a knowledge.
Okay.
But I had no acceptance. You know, I mean, I've always known, there's God out there, obviously, in my opinion. That's just where I was. I was like, yeah, there's God. I just was never, I couldn't make sense of the whole evolution thing or anything else. The only thing that actually made any sense to me logically was God. And so but I left it at that and never really pursued anything with God. I mean, when I was younger, one of my disciplines with my uncle and his wife before I got shipped out to group homes was they would make us read the Bible.
Oh.
You know, and however many, whatever I did depended on how many pages I had to read. So like I kind of had this knowledge of that. Being in and out of jail, when you're in jail, one of the things they do give you is a Bible. So you get this jailhouse religion where you kind of try to make a deal with God. You're like, hey, you get me out of this, and I promise I'll change my life around. We think it works, and so we kind of get in this Bible thing. We'll read our Bibles or try, but there's no actual sticking to the change because you're not genuine. So I guess there was kind of a little bit of knowing and knowledge, only based off of what I had already done. But.
That's that what you described there as far as like, hey God, if you get me out of here, da 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 da. Like, I was talking with a couple gentlemen about this the other day, and we came up with the terms like bargaining your faith. Like, hey man, you help me out here, I'll kind of da 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 da. And it's like, oh man, it's something that, God will say, he'll be like, oh, you want to play that game right now?
Yeah. It's like, come on, dude, you're gambling with God. He's like the house. He's always going to win.
Man, okay, so you did have, and I think what's really cool about your story to see, just from a whole vantage point wise, is just the way that even though there were those places where it was like pretty much that the genie situation, just the fact that you did have some type of seed at some point that gave you some type of knowledge, that seed at that point was able to take root and maybe even passively, the guy who managed to get out, like that was a watering that man was doing. And then when the full bloom happened, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because when that guy got out, there was probably no part of him that's like, man, I hope like my ministering.
Cool thing about that actually is I met him after I got out of jail. He was working at the landscape job that I went back to.
Did you really?
Yes. And so like he didn't know about the change. Like he didn't see me that way. So like he thought I was still like the same old person he met whenever he asked me the first time about God. But I told him a little bit. He's like, wow, that's crazy. So I don't know why I didn't mention that, but yeah. But I only got to see him like 2 or 3 times before I quit. But that's funny you said that because I actually told him about the place I used to work, and he's like, okay. So I guess when he got out, he went to this program which is right down the road. And what they do is they help homeless people get jobs and stuff. But my company, that company I worked for, actually would hire people from that place every once in a while. They knew each other. Bro, God is dope. God is dope, bro. God works in a way that's like, I don't even know how it works, but I'm not even going to try to understand.
Yeah, man. And then, dang it, you just said something too that, you said, okay, when he got out, he went to the place. Oh, man, it's going to drive me crazy.
It'll come back.
Yeah. And so, hold on. Sorry. Let me come here because. So the officer that you met at that time, that was in Virginia, right?
About the one who knew my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in West Virginia. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever contemplated like returning there and paying him a visit?
It has been kind of something, maybe not just him, but to my family, just kind of going up there because they even knew me as that roughneck, so they know I've spoken to them, so they kind of know where I am in life. But it has been something I've thought about doing, but no, as far as him, no, but I think that's kind of a good idea though, kind of returning and letting him see, hey, the kids you arrested so long ago, I just wanted to say thank you because you letting me go and all that kind of led to something much greater. Man.
And I'm sure for him, he'd just be like, that right there, as an officer, you see so much I was just a security officer for a certain point in a neighborhood, and there would be some kids that would run around, and I could tell that they were trying to, talk older and all these things. And I'm just like, look, you guys, just be careful here. Don't do nothing crazy.
Right.
But then to be able to see somebody that was in it And he probably had no clue like what happened with you afterwards, right? Because you were what, 16 at that time when you got.
I was 18.
18
at that time.
Okay, and so that was how many years ago?
I think I'm 32 now, so
Oh man,
14 years ago.
14 years.
Yeah, going on
wow.
15. Yeah, that was a wall. Wow,
Man.
that was a long time ago.
He might be
dude.
retired by now, huh?
Yeah, he might be, because I mean, I think he was like a sheriff at that point. I mean, when he met my mom, I think he was like lower, like whatever their classes are, but like young gun on the force, and now and then he was sheriff, so he probably is retired at this point, you know.
Yeah.
But
man, that's wild right there. And then, man, when you were talking about the one cop who pulled over like the car of people, and you're like, why did he let us go? There was a thought, like I said, I was security just for a small stint, maybe like 6 months a year or whatever. And there's like this, I could imagine that you have kind of that group of people. You're just like, how do I go about not doing something that sets off my life being in some type of danger? Because there were times where I would encounter people and I'd be like, I know for certain that's a dope house right there, but what do I have right now?
Yeah.
One guy and whatnot. And so smart call on his part, because at that time, I mean, anything could have happened with it, even if not from you, like from other people. Because you said it was a car of how many people? Like 4 or 5 people?
3 in the back, me and another dude in the front. It was 5 of us.
5, yeah.
I mean, I was probably the smallest out of them too. So yeah, and it wouldn't have gone over well. One of the guys was so hot headed, dude. It was like anything would set him off, man. And yeah, and I kind of think of that too. I'm like, he was probably just like, no, I'm not even today. It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I can understand that, but still at some point it's just like, oh wow. You know, like, God, how many chances are you going to give me? You know?
Absolutely, man. You had mentioned that with your second son, you actually were like, okay, I'm going to give this a real shot now.
Right.
What at that time made you decide that you were going to try?
I guess it was just that moment of soberness, of just kind of not being at that place where I normally was, and just kind of looking back and remembering my childhood, you know, and kind of, and, you know, just not wanting that to be his. And, you know, I guess, you know, like I said, it was a sober moment too. Like, I wasn't as high as I typically was, and I wasn't on as many drugs as I normally was. It was kind of a period of easy drugs. I mean, if you know, you catch my drift, like I was just smoking weed and working, you know? So like, I thought I was doing the grown man thing. So I was a little bit more mature because I didn't have as clouded of a mind. So, and like I said, remembering my childhood really impacted that a lot.
Yeah.
Because I guess I could see, you know, the resemblance of how I was living compared to when I was younger, how, you know, my parents and my family were living. And seeing that similarity is a little scary.
And so like, as it stands now for you, and collection of, I guess, some of the experiences that you had with, whether it was the previous women and the children that were there, like, have you been able to minister to them or any of those kids at all?
Actually, I do have contact with my first son. It took me a while to finally get in contact with him, but he finally reached out with me. He lives in another state, but yes, I get to minister to him a lot. You know, I talk to him at least weekly. And so I'm always like, did you talk to Jesus today? And encouraging that. And, you know, I have music that I put on YouTube when I was in this phase, and it's very dark. It's rap. It's very demonic. And I openly admit it, that it's demonic in my raps, but he listened to all of that. And so when I found that, I was like, but that's not who I am anymore. And I kind of give him the G-rated version of my story to kind of help him see where I was in life. And I know I can, every Sunday, I'm like, did you go to church? And if he says yes, I'm like, did you learn anything? You know, so to him, yes. My other son, I actually get to see him every day.
Nice.
I have him this weekend. So, you know, every other weekend, me and his mom swap. So, and he's autistic. So, you know, and I kind of look at that as a blessing because, you know, kind of looking back and what he did see as he was younger probably doesn't stick with him as it would, you know, a child who was more
Neurotypical.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But no, so now he's seen me then, but he sees me now, and so that's a ministry and all in itself. And every night when he stays over, we read the Bible as a bedtime story. I've taught him to pray for whenever we eat. He, as soon as he sees this plate of food coming, he starts saying, "God is good, God is great," and he says his prayers. And so I get to do that, which is really cool. I kind of get to fix some things that I've broken. So.
Man, that's so awesome. And like to see it coming from dad too is like, it's such a big element in there.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Man. This was something that came up. You had said at a certain point, someone should have taken the shovel from me.
Yeah.
I guess my question with that would be like, would there have been someone that you could think of at that point that could have taken the shovel?
Maybe just going to jail sooner for a lot longer.
Mm.
Being made to sit down and not have, anything to kind of distract me. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would have heard the voice of the Lord a lot sooner. But then again, it's like I look back at my life and I'm like, as bad as it was, I don't think that I would go back and change it.
Yeah.
Only because if I changed those things, then there's no telling how it would change the impact of the testimony that God can use. Mm-hmm. And everything, I feel like God allows things to happen, and he may not be the cause of disaster, but he knows what he can do with it.
Yeah.
And so if my testimony from my turmoil, my fiery background, and my tragedy in life and the things that I've done wrong and the destruction I've caused can bring glory to God, and so be it.
And so now, as you continue to live, oh yes, you guys did get married after 2 months.
We are officially married. We got married 11/11/22.
Awesome. Congrats. Which would have been about a year
17
after.
months ago.
Man.
Yeah, so it was about a year and some change after I got, out of jail.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned 2021. I think about 2021 for myself, and that was also the year that I came to God.
Oh, nice.
As well.
Yeah.
So I feel that, we're brothers in that way.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was like June I had my onset moment, and then July some things started to show up, and then October I fully submitted it.
Yeah.
So you got a little bit of age on me in that. Man. And so that pretty much handles like any questions that I had there. So
yeah,
I guess now we can kind of just talk this thing man to man. So as you're living your life now with your wife, congrats. What does a typical day look like? So you've mentioned already that you got involved with church more.
Yep.
You talk to your children on a regular basis.
Yep.
And what else does your life look like? How are you able to share your testimony with different people?
Right. So a typical day at my house is I work night shifts still. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it, but I work overnights, and I come home, I'm asleep. My wife, she works from home, so she's there, and I guess it's kind of just like your normal, what you would think of as a normal family. Like I have my son after he gets out of school, we hang out, we play, we teach him. He gives us a run for our money sometimes. Yard work. I mean, it's pretty typical. And then I go to the skate park sometimes, so I skate. And there's moments where I'm there and I'm like, I share my testimony, a little snippet, the very short version, because with 16, 17, 18, our attention spans 100%. At that age are like this big. So it's, you got to be like, okay, I got 20 seconds to grab their attention. Boom. Mm-hmm. And so I would. And I've had several times to do that. But before my wife, though, I full-fledged street evangelized. Up until I met her, I was in the hood where I used to sell drugs, do drugs, and buy drugs. And I was just I would just go and I would talk to every person I could about Christ. And I would just lay it on them. And I was doing that daily. And, but now it's, we are very involved in our church. We are actually the youth pastors Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I had no clue.
Yes,
What?
we are actually the new youth pastors. It's kind of been a new thing for like the past 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like January
Yeah,
onset.
yeah,
Holy
yeah,
smokes,
yeah.
man.
So
congrats about that. That is amazing.
Thanks. And and it's pretty easy going in my house, man. Like we pray together, we eat together, we do life together, we compromise, we talk. I mean, my wife and I, we get along. I mean, I guess it's completely opposite. Let me put it, it's completely opposite of the way I used to live.
Wow.
Like I don't get enraged. We talk like adults, to settle things. With having a kid, it's the typical pick them up from school, bring them home, snack, play, hang out. And, it's pretty like low key and I love it. I love the fact that I could just come home and just be with my wife. I love, just going out in the yard and doing yard work. I love being able to provide. I love the stability that I can bring and offer. I love the peace that's in our home. I cook dinner for us, it's just like these little things, like, during their days and lives, like we don't think much of it. But when you've lived a life completely, not having that void of that, and then you have it, it's just like in there, you see that maturity, and then you're like, I don't want to say I'm proud of myself, but you're proud. You're proud of yourself as a man, of being able to hold a job, being able to provide a nice home for your wife and to support her in her dreams or her endeavors, and being a good listener for her, being a good role model for your son or your kids, and just bringing that in your heart and allowing it to be, what you need it to be and what God has called us to be, and one of the prayers I say daily is, Lord, let me be a husband and a father as you are a husband and father. Teach me your ways. And when you open yourself up, God will teach you his ways. And, I know for me, like one of the triggers in my past was, that led to the drug use or the alcohol use was not feeling like I was a man, not feeling like I could provide, not feeling like I was doing a good job as a man or as a father, and as a man, it's stuff that we battle with. We're thinking about that when we lose our job. We're like, how am I going to pay for my bills? How am I going to keep my, my wife with a roof over her head or my kids with food in their belly? These are things that are stressors in our lives that will sometimes lead to that alcohol or that marijuana or that depression that we don't even recognize as depression.
Yeah.
And, we'll end up turning to anger where we snap at the people who are closest to us. And, and unfortunately that happens a lot, like we deal with that as men. And so, whenever you're able to get to a point in your life, and it's all with God, in my opinion, I couldn't have done this on my own. I'm just going to be 100% real. Like all this is all because of the Lord, all of it. So a typical day in my household is normal. And that's the best way to describe it. It's normal, bro. And it's amazing.
Man, that is so fantastic, man. So you going forward, like, man, and 100%, I got to get you back on.
Yeah.
At another point. Maybe I can have your wife join us as well, and we can kind of cover that whole story because I've got so many questions in there, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Time wise, we are coming up on it. All right. So what we'll do, we'll acknowledge what some of these questions here or what some of the comments here look like.
Okay.
We'll go into some of the closing statements, man, and then or closing segments, and then we'll pray you out. That way, I can have respect for your time here.
Yeah.
So here we have someone says, wife said, yes, I did, with the cool shades. And then we have Crystal, who says, we are blessed to have Austin and Renee in our church and shepherding our youth.
Oh,
wow. That's
Thank
awesome,
you, Crystal.
right there.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, Crystal. And then we have Revival of Joy saying, we're proud of you, Austin.
Oh,
Charlene said, God is dope. Your wife said, whoop, whoop, best day ever. You do the dishes, though. Oh, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, life is looking back now, I think about where I was and, the choices I was making and like you said, like I can't even imagine it myself. Like how I was like I can't imagine making those decisions.
Right.
I can't imagine making those choices or what I was even thinking to get to that point in my life. It's pretty sketch. I'm like, what? Oh my goodness! And how was I not in prison or something? Like, what in the? There's okay, God. It's all you because I can't explain it, and that's where I leave it. I'm like, I can't explain it. It's all you. Man. I'm not even gonna try to understand. I can't. So, but now it's bro, I have goals. You know what I'm saying? Like I have goals, and it's all simple goals like do better at work, get that promotion. Buy our house one day, like simple family goals, bro. And like, it seems so normal. And so like, really you came from that. And this is, and of course I want to share, like the Lord's already told me he wants me to share my testimony. Otherwise there was no point in me other than me coming to God. Great. That is great. But if it reminds me of the story in the Bible that Jesus told about a king who went out of town and he gave each of them a amount of silver, and when the first guy invested it, the other guy invested it and they doubled it. Right. But the other guy, he buried it and he hid it, right? Because he didn't want to lose it and he didn't know what to do. He was scared and timid. So he hid it. And if we do that with our testimonies, with these talents that God's given us, right? It comes back as just one. But if we just trust that in God and we use what he's given us and what he's brought us through, there's no telling how we can change people's lives by allowing him to work through us.
100%.
So I know for a fact, like, I've never been a speaker. This is my first live podcast kind of thing.
Really?
Yes. So
wow.
Like I always get nervous, even when I get up in church and I talk or anything like that. I'm always just like, but I know that I don't care about me being comfortable or not. I want to share my testimony, not for my glory, not to boast, not to brag, but because I know that I can reach somebody in every aspect of what I've gone through, which is very broad, and it can maybe help somebody hear that voice of God calling them and come to him and watch him just work. And my wife and I, that's one thing we talk about all the time is ministry. Is like what we want to do, and we always pray, Lord, we have these ideas, we have these thoughts, but obviously your will be done, but we want to serve you with our life stories. We want you to use us however you want us to use us. And so, we knew that testimony is one of those things where it's like, share your testimony.
Absolutely, man. And I love your emphasis on it because it's like the most powerful thing in the Bible was the woman at the well go and just excitedly proclaiming it.
Right.
Or all the people seeing the miracle of Jesus coming back and saying, oh my goodness, like, yeah, we're going to die for this. Yeah, like, listen, this really happened. All you witnesses, like,
right.
And everybody just standing on that and being totally proud of the fact that God is real. God is who he says he is. God has done these things, and there is absolutely 0.0 shame of how God has moved and is going to continue to move.
That's right.
Beautiful, man. Before we go into some of these closing segments, Austin did give me some Bible verses. And for anybody that is in situations where they may feel, and I'll let you describe how they might feel, Austin, because I think you could speak to a lot better. Yeah. So anyone that may feel, and then go ahead, Austin.
Okay. So you want me to share the verses?
Yes.
Okay. So this very first verse I'm going to share, it was actually the verse that I told you I read in jail that actually, there's just something about it. And I guess it's because, you can feel, so you feel heavy burdened. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're taking up this yoke that you can't bear. You feel like you're at a loss so whenever I feel like I'm at a loss or I'm at a crossroad or, I just don't have what I need to go forward. This one verse or these verses from this one chapter of Matthew, I always remember it. And it's Matthew 11:28-30. And it says, "Then Jesus said, 'Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your soul.'" It's just that, Jesus is like, he's telling us, like, let me have your burden. I don't want you to carry it on yourself. And so whenever I feel like I have a lot on my plate and I'm just like, even like little stuff like work or, household stresses, or anything like that, like I remember this verse and I'm like, you know what, Lord, you're here with me. So when you feel you're at your wit's end, when you feel like you can't take any more on your plate, give it to God. Remember this verse and then put another scoop on. Because I promise you, if you just keep trusting in the Lord and you just keep going, he's going to show up. And he's going to take that burden, he's going to take that yoke, he's going to take that uneasiness, and he's going to give you rest, and he's going to come to you and be gentle and lowly and understanding.
Beautifully said.
And when I feel like, so it kind of touches, this one touches too. It's like whenever I'm like, I don't have the strength to be patient. I don't have the strength to be kind. I don't have the strength to put a smile on my face. I don't have the strength to keep going at work. I don't have the strength to whatever it is. Like when you feel like you're at that crossroad of where you're like, you know what? I don't care. I just want to give up. I don't have the strength to keep going in good situations or bad situations when you're feeling depressed or anything like that, or you're feeling like you don't have it in you to move. I always remember Philippians 4:13, "For I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." He didn't say some things. He didn't say, the big things. He said all things. Paul tells us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I feel like if we just remember that too, that it gives us the strength to realize I'm not doing this on my own. And it's comforting to remember like God's with me. Jesus is here. They're helping me through this all. And I don't have to carry this by myself. I don't need to rely on my own strength because, dude, honestly, I don't think we have the strength capable to carry life on our own, which is why a lot of it leads to depression and anger and drugs and alcohol and a lot of other coping mechanisms that are not healthy at all. And one of the so when I'm going through a dark time, like so when you're going through that dark time where you just feel like there's no out, where you're looking for that exit and you can't get out of it and you're just stuck in this depression, or you're stuck in this dark hole where you just feel like everything's caving in on you and you're encompassed in every side with struggle or stress or whatever it is with work and life and your kids, your family, whatever it is. There's a Psalm 23, and I like it. There's one verse, it's verse 4. It says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." It's just remembering once again, like, I think it's most important for us men to realize, you know what, because we try to take it all on. Let's just be 100% real. We try to take it all in. We try to carry all of it. We try to not show that stress, not show that frustration or worry, to take the load of the family onto ourselves. We want to provide and protect. Kind of just like God said he wants to do for us. Like we want to do the same thing. But we've got to understand is like, yes, you want to be a man, but what is a real man? One who leans on the Lord. One who will admit that he can't do it on his own, and partner with God and let him help you. So, talk to God. And that's what this verse reminds me to do is even when I'm going through my darkest valley, I won't be afraid. I know you're going to help me and protect me, but it's also, you're talking to God saying in this verse. Yeah. Even when I'm going through my dark valley, I know that you are going to be there. I'm not going to be afraid because you are going to be with me. And realizing that we can find strength in God, and just talking to him and just saying, Lord, work is stressing me out. These guys want to keep pushing me an hour or two past my clock out time. And I need the strength not to cuss them out. You know what? He may chuckle just like you did, but guess what? He's going to give you that strength. And I guarantee you're going to feel 10 times better by the end of that conversation. And the last one that I will share is 2 Timothy 1:7. And it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." So it kind of mingles all in together. You know, when you're at that point, you're like, I need strength, but you're afraid to ask because your pride doesn't want you to ask and admit that you aren't strong enough. You weren't given a spirit of fear. Don't allow pride to come in and make you afraid to come and ask for help. You know, and you don't have to go to people. It's good to do that, yes. But there's a helper who will never judge you for coming and asking him for help, and his name's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm gentle and lowly, which means I've been through it. I know what you're going to do. I'm not going to bite your head off. Come, let's talk. Just talk, bro. Just talk to Jesus like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this professional sounding conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I look up and I'm like, I love you, Jesus. Or I'm like, dang, bro, I don't know what to do. Lord, you know, what do I, da-da-da. And that's just how our conversations go. It's very normal. You know, and that's all he wants, man. He just wants you to choose him.
Yeah.
You want strength? Let him give it to you. He has all these things and these gifts that he wants to give to us. But the only thing that he wants us to do is ask him for help.
Mm.
He's a gentleman, bro. He's not going to force anything onto you. He's not going to give you anything forcefully. He wants you to humble yourself and to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wants to be invited. And so that's what we've got to remember as men is, look, don't think and take the world's idea of what a man is and allow it to dilute you, because I promise you what the world's telling you as a man, that is not a man.
Yeah.
That is a sad, depressed, heavy burdened man.
Mm.
That is a person who needs help. So don't be afraid and ashamed to ask God for help or to lean on your wives. Bro, let me tell you now, my wife is so strong. Like if I need prayer or if I need anything, I'm asking my wife. Bro, I'm going straight to her like, babe, I just pray for me. She's like, okay. And she'll pray for me. Babe, I need your help. Okay. And you know what? Them first times you're asking prayer or help from your wife, I won't lie. You're going to be like, oh, I don't want to. But you know what? Like that relationship between you and your wife is almost the same relationship between you and Jesus. Intimate, close, understanding, compassionate, strengthening, encouraging. You know, you're there to build each other up. That's all Jesus wants to do. He doesn't want to tear you down. He wants to build you up. So these are verses I remember and my moments. And like, as a man, these are the moments that I kind of deal with the most.
Yeah.
You know, is that lack of strength, that lack of patience or endurance, that lack of, you know, knowledge, knowing that I can go forward. You know, these things are the things that I think a lot of men typically deal with, especially family men. You know, we go through that a lot, bro.
So this is the first time that I've ever been inspired to ask this question. And it came from you saying how much you struggle with it sometimes, especially the first couple times. You said that you go to your wife and you ask her to pray for you. Mm-hmm. As a married man myself as well, I don't think, aside from when it's absolutely like I'm just at my wit's end.
Yeah.
So literally like less than maybe twice ever, I don't think I've ever gone to my wife to ask her to pray for me.
Yeah.
So break down for me what that looks like for you, practically. Like, how do you even phrase it? Like, what's the posture of approach? Like, because this is a foreign concept to me almost.
Yeah. It's actually a lot simpler than you would think. The biggest barrier, and I've learned this in my walk with Christ, that stops us from reaching out or asking for help or any of that is pride, right? So I have to remind myself that's pride. That's not what God wants. I simply just look at my wife, or I'll text her, or I'll call her, and I'm like, babe, can you pray for me? Simply just like that. Babe, can you pray for me? And she'll say, yeah, what about? And I'll kind of just tell her what I'm dealing with. Traffic's annoying me. Work is stressing me out. Babe, I'm swamped. I have a lot going on in my heart, my mind right now. I don't know what to do. Will you pray for me? And it sounds like, you know, it's hard. It's hard. But really, when you ask, the question is very simple. Mm-hmm. Babe, will you pray for me? Even if that means, you know, just praying for me throughout her day. You know, my wife, I love her so much. She's gotten to the point now, every night when I leave for work, she sits there, she puts her hand on my shoulder or my head, and she prays for me.
Wow.
And you know what?
Wow.
As a guy, I'm kind of like, but my heart, who God says I am, I love it. I love it, bro. Just knowing that my wife loves and supports me enough to every day, not just pray for my safety, not just to pray that I get home good, but she prays for my patience. She prays that, you know, I don't don't fall into the trap of fitting in with the people around me, that, you know, I don't go to old ways. Like, she prays for me, bro. And honestly, if my wife wasn't praying for me, I don't think that I would cover the basis that she covers.
And it's so cool to talk about your wife, because I remember when I had Al on, he shared the story of how he told his daughter to climb up in order to do something. Yeah. And then she's up there and he's like, okay, now jump down. And she's all scared. And then she just, okay. You know, he said, honey, I'd let my legs get crushed before I let you get hurt. And then she just jumps. And now to know how that little girl went from there, trusting there, to now the woman that she is, it's kind of an incredibly beautiful. No, it's not kind. It is a completely beautiful story.
Yeah,
seeing like now where she's at with it. So man, this is before this episode started, obviously we had tech troubles, but even before that, I like getting ready for this episode. I'm like, I have no clue what to expect. I have no clue how I want to lead this necessarily. And so I just asked God, like, God, help me to just like be quiet enough maybe, and to just let him speak what his testimony is. And I'm glad I did that, because you had so much goodness to say. And yeah, I feel that the audience was incredibly blessed just to be able to hear this whole thing play out, start to finish, man. So thank you for blessing all of us in that way.
My pleasure, dude. If it helps others, then great. You know what I mean? And like I said, all glory to God. So.
Absolutely. So at this time, what are 3 things, biggest things that you really want to give to the audience and say, hey, make sure you keep this in mind and maybe put it into practice going forward?
Biggest things. Number 1 is you're never alone. You're never alone. I mean, even if you have a relationship with Jesus, or even if you don't, I want you to know one thing, that you're never alone in your walk in life and what you're dealing with. You're never alone. And just reach out to him. Number 2, don't be afraid to reach out to others. Look, pride is a killer, okay? And especially for the men out there, look, bro, we don't want to ask anybody for help. We don't want to stop and ask for directions. Ask for help. Admit you need the help. Don't think that it makes you less of a man. Don't think that it is demasculating. Don't think it makes you look soft. It does all of the opposite. Okay, it makes you look more like Jesus to the people that you're around, because you're humbling yourself and you're making your heart gentle and lowly. So always reach out and ask, especially your spouse, for help. And number 3, talk to God daily. I'm just going to lay that one right there as raw as it is. Talk to him daily, whether it's about traffic, whether it's about work, whether it's about your marriage, whether it's about your home, your bills. I don't care. Even if you just pop in and say, I love you, God, talk to him daily and listen to him, because he wants to give you advice. He wants to talk to you just as much as he wants you to talk to him. So those 3 things are things I put in practice in my own life. And they may seem small, but when you do just these 3 things, I've noticed that many other things shift and change with it. So,
man, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And then the next segment is, what are 3 questions, any at all that you might have, 3 questions that you can ask me and I will answer completely honestly.
Okay. You answered one of them for me already. I was going to ask you, how long have you been following Christ?
Yes. Yeah. It was October 10th, 2021.
Nice.
Yeah, man. And I remember it because it's one of my favorite anime character, Naruto's birthday as well.
Oh, nice. You know, he has a way of making sure you remember things.
I know, right?
And so my second question kind of goes along with the first. You know, what was your life like before Christ? You know,
man, my life was really and truly, my life was I would say I was pretty coddled most of my life.
Yeah.
Mom always did everything she could. Strained relationship with dad growing up. And there were some moments as a kid where things were really good. And then there were just some moments that were really distant.
Right.
And then just like going up into like kind of the high school, early college years and whatnot, it was very much just like, I have this entrepreneur spirit and I'm like, oh, I want to get into all these things, but also like not ever focusing in on something. And then just like spending a long time in a relationship and thinking that was going to be like my future and realizing that, man, I am like, when that relationship got cut, realizing, man, I have spent my entire life being coddled. And then as I got older, having talents and things, plenty of things, but never pulling the trigger on it, not being, and if I did pull the trigger, I was inconsistent with it.
Yeah.
Not making the deadlines that were needed. And like all of these things were always just simple little things that if I could just work on each of them a little bit, it would have shifted my trajectory a lot. And then the culmination of all of these deficiencies with that relationship made me realize like, dude, you have lived a whole life of potential to the point where even this relationship had the potential to make it all the way, and you just fumbled the bag because you were not expeditious.
Yeah.
And luckily I fully submitted to God when I did give. And I said, God, I'm just going to be out here doing this thing I'm doing, like trusting you and like, living life. I'm going to put feelers out for whatever happens, and I'm just going to let you take the wheel. And I mean, after a while, I got fired from a job. I got an injury that caused me to be fired. And then I met a woman, and I said, well, God, I guess this is my life now. And here I am now in this nice apartment with a beautiful 3-piece picture frame and running my own show with an active chat that is like, that's just been supporting the growth of, meeting amazing men that want to share testimonies in the gospel and trying to provide a space where other men can learn from it. And so I think finally I can look at it and I can say, you have stopped submitting to all of these deficiencies and began to lean on Christ more.
There you go. Because why? You can do all things through Christ, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's cool, like hearing your story, and that is like how we fumble around in life, like aimlessly, and then there's that one key piece. Once you let it in, bro, everything just lines. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always look how we think it's going to look or should look. Like, you're like, I'm going to have it all figured out. I'm going to have it all together. Christ comes in. Oh, boom. But then you're like, wait a minute. This doesn't look like what I thought it would. You lost a job. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man.
But the loss gave room.
It was the catapult. And it was the catapult that was only propelled by faith.
Yeah.
Because there were so many twists along the way, from the point of actually getting into the relationship with my wife. I was tested along that path in a couple different ways, to when the catapult launched, I'm like, oh snap, do I have enough momentum? How's the altitude? And then even temptations with like, what's the best way to grow this thing? Like, should I use more like promiscuous manners, more controversial things? Like, how should I do it? And then it's just like, every time it's just trust God.
Yep.
Have faith.
That's right.
Let him lead the way.
That's awesome, bro. And I think it's amazing what you're doing here, because like you said, it gives people that platform. And I said earlier on, like, there's power in the testimony. Jesus says there's power in your testimonies, right? Mm-hmm. There's power in sharing what you've gone through and how Christ has changed your life.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays in social media and YouTube, like, finding that platform, it's not easy, because it's not like old days where you just go and you preach and you speak. You gotta appease your audience. So having that set up for guys like me who don't have social media and don't do any of this stuff, it helps. So I just give you applause on that one, bro, and just continuing to walk in faith on that. Third question. I'm caught between two questions. So which one do I want to ask?
If you want, you can do both of them.
Okay. When you and your wife met, what was like the dynamic of that relationship compared to now?
Man, when we met, that's an interesting question.
Yeah,
there.
right? That's why I was like, should I even ask that question?
So when my wife and I met, it was I would say I was, with every girl I met, because I had like kind of a couple weeks worth of dates set up, and my wife was one of them. And it was very much just like I'm showing up at these and I'm seeing who's a godly girl, who fits in whatever criteria. So I treated it very casually, but I was still very intentional about trying to set up certain boundaries and just operating with intentionality, but also like very carefree.
Right.
It's like if things work out, I'm so excited and I'm ready to move forward. But if things don't, I have zero attachment about saying, hey, good to meet you. Thanks for your time. Have a good life.
Yeah.
And so when you say, how was it when we first met, you mean first meeting, not dating, right? Just meeting?
Yeah. Yeah. So how, okay, when you first met, let me rephrase. So when you first met, what was the tell sign? Like, how did you know? You know what I mean? Like, what gave it away?
Okay. Got you. So what gave it away for me, and it was the most simple thing possible, but one, she had a lot of the green flags that I had on my pre-qualified list.
Yeah.
And she did not have a lot of the red flags that I have on it. So that was one thing. But what really cemented it for me was we went on our second date, which was a picnic date with music and dancing and all that. And on our first date, my eyes were watery, my sinuses were flaring up and all that. And so on the next date, when she showed up, she was like, oh, hey, are you having the issues again with your eyes? Because I got you something. And she goes into her bag and she pulls out like 3-4 packets of Kleenexes and a bottle of eye drops.
Nice.
And I'm like, who the heck shows up to a second date with eye treatment?
Oh man, and see, that shows the care, right? That shows the heart, bro.
100%. It shows attentiveness, care, heart, desire to take action. And I'm like, okay. You got it, girl.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome.
And that was it for me, man.
That's awesome.
And then how is it now? Now it is like, man, she enables all of this. This platform is not monetized right now.
Right.
So every month we operate at a deficit, and she just trusts me to build it up, to take it somewhere good. And so you talk about going from tissues and the eye drops to podcast studio.
It's a lot of tissues and eye drops right here. That's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah.
So she just continues to like see these things, and like as a husband, man, there's so much of preparation that I did to make myself ready as a husband, both from the worldly side and the secular side.
Yeah.
And it is a true battle to silence those worldly pieces that I incorporated into like the type of husband that I am.
Yeah.
We mentioned that I less than like 3 times maybe have actually come to her and been like, I need you to pray for me about something. Yeah. That's something that comes from that worldly piece that's like, you show zero vulnerability. And even I understand that that's not the case.
Right.
But there is still this thing where it's like, okay, but like, ooh, that pull of like, what is enough? What is too much? What is not enough, So yeah, I'm still working on the programming. And then also, of course, still handling like righteous anger, for example. Yeah. Like if something is happening, my navigation of that, usually if we're looking at a 30-day period, I'm like, okay, I'm good for like 28, 29 of those days. Yeah. But man, on day 30, 31, there will be something that'll happen, and each of us will just be in our emotions, and I should be the emotional leader in that.
Right.
And I just let my feeling of I'm right about this thing, I'm correct in this thing, go to a certain place.
Yeah.
So whereas before there was just like this impressedness that I had, now there is still that impressedness and this gratitude, but now there is like this I suppose it's like a burden of maturation.
Okay.
Is what I would say of it. And I mean, that probably most accurately describes me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to encourage you. Look, man, you're gonna have those moments, and usually it's the same, man. But it's that pride, bro. And that's it's just something that's been instilled at us as men in the world. It's just, you've got to be the leader. You've got to be the strong one. You can't show any weakness. So my third point, and it's not even going to be a question, I'm going to give you a challenge. You ready?
Okay.
I challenge you to ask your wife for prayer once a week. Not even if it's anything specific. Just say, you know what? Will you just pray for me throughout your day? And let her pray for you and whatever it is that she thinks you need prayer in. That's it. That's my challenge to you, bro. That's my challenge. And you can just be really quick. Hey, will you pray for me this week? And run away.
I'm going to do it just like that.
Shoot a text. There we go. Done. Okay. And I challenge all men out there. If you have a wife, I am challenging you right now. Once a week, go to your wife and just like, babe, will you pray for me? Leave it at that. If you don't have anything specific, that's cool. Just let your wife know to pray for you and that you want her to pray for you.
My man. Hot dog.
It took a lot for me to get there though. Like it wasn't like yeah, babe, pray for me. No, like I was at, bro. Even now, if I have to ask her to pray for me, I'm kind of doing it through gritted teeth. But I know that is right.
Yeah.
And I know that it's right. Whether your mind, your flesh, your whatever is telling you it's not, if your spirit knows it's right, do it anyways. Jesus said, we're called to be counter-cultural, not cultural.
Yeah.
Counter world. So it's not an easy fight. You know what I mean? I get it because I deal with it too, bro. We all do, but it's who you gonna listen to.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
I appreciate it, man. And I'll work on the challenge. So before we do close up with the last segment here, I will go ahead. I'll acknowledge these last of the last comments here.
Okay.
So we have from, trying to remember where we left off. Okay, here we go. Crystal said, love you guys. And then we had Charlene said, I'm cherishing every talent he gave me.
Nice.
And then we had Crystal. Charlene again said, he speak facts. The way he speak and smiles shows how pure God made him to be. Next up, I can't wait to see how God used this and kicks things off with your willingness to share publicly. This is just the beginning, and thank you so much for having him on. That's your wifey.
Aw.
And Charlene says, I surrender to him my problems, for I cannot handle them by myself. Absolutely, Charlene.
Yes. He
He brings light to the darkest tunnel. It became my habit to talk to Jesus randomly, even in random times like me doing tasks. I'd tell him what's on my mind. Beautiful. Wifey says, please ask your wives for prayer. We want to pray for you.
And we probably need it.
Right? Facts. Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Charlene says, Austin, you are amazing. And then to cap it off, she says, I'm way too astonished with the way he speaks. One of my favorite guests so far. Every guest here is outstanding, but Austin caught my spiritual being so much with his testimony. Man,
Yeah.
you are a favorite, man. So at this time, what is something that you would like to either confess to the audience, get off your heart, share your burden, or something that you need encouragement in, or even something that you have praise about that you want to pray about? You may choose any of those, and I and the audience and those that watch in the future will pray over you at this time.
Okay. I think the one thing that I would choose is, I'm just going to be like, hey, pray for me in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like I told you before, I know that sharing my testimony is something God wants. 'Cause He wants us to all share our testimony, right?
Yeah.
But dude, it's a battle in my mind sometimes to build that courage up. So I guess just, I need prayer for encouragement, that God will just continue to lead me to the right path, and that He will just open the right doors for me. And I would just love it if others would come in agreement with that as well for me. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I struggle with that confidence, bro. That is my confession. I struggle with the confidence to get up here in front of a camera and God knows however many people to say the things that I say. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, man, absolutely, 100%. And here's a few encouragers, but we'll add to that right now, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, wow, what a past 2.5, almost 3 hours that this has been. Coming to talk to and get to know Austin and his testimony, and just the amazing things that you have done in his life, Lord. Whether it was protecting him as a headstrong and rash kid, or correcting him as an adult, or a young adult, to blessing him as he chooses to invite you, God. We are just in awe and amazement at the way that you can take us. No matter where we are in life, you will call us, and you won't give up on us. You'll keep calling us until we pick up that Bible. And we just pray, Lord, that all those who may be in any type of similar situations, similar life experience, who may be struggling with a crisis of identity, is feeling a place of belonging that is lost, that all of these young people would come to hear your voice, and that they would just pick up that Bible, God. And we pray that any way that we can play a role in that we can be used as instrumental tools that glorify you and encourage them in that walk. Lord, as Austin is looking at sharing his testimony to give you more glory, we just pray that you would encourage him in that journey, Lord. It can be so intimidating to come up and make yourself vulnerable, exposing every corner of every closet that you have so that you may glorify God. We just pray, Lord, that you would encourage him, give strength to his spirit, and feed the lion that is within him. Allow him to be surrounded by those who look to encourage him and those who believe in him, who understand that he has something amazing to give to the world, and just provide him opportunities that he can say yes to that are clearly from you, God. We pray that every evil thought, evil spirit, evil opportunity that may come his way, that he would be able to call it out easily, that his wife would be able to recognize it right alongside him. We pray that you would give him a spirit of discernment, a spirit of bravery and of courage, of strength, and that any spirit of fear, of doubt, of anger may be completely tossed aside, cast into the wind, and that all that remains is your Holy Spirit pouring out and overflowing onto him. Dear Lord, bless his wife, God.
Yes.
That amazing example of a woman. And we pray that she would continue to have the strength to continue to just be a faithful wife, a good wife, a praying wife that lifts up and builds up her husband, that sees opportunities for him and shoots more text messages saying, hey, my husband has an awesome testimony, because he does have an awesome testimony. And so we just pray, God, that the two of them, as they work as one flesh, one body, one union, through your blessing, would be able to be encouraged by all those around, whether within the church, outside of the church, and family, that they would have opportunities presented, and that you would open the door so that they can walk through, hands up, praising you, singing your name as they glorify you. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. That was great. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. You've got something too big to offer the world, man.
Well, like I said, I just got to let the Lord encourage me and get out of my own head sometimes, bro. So I appreciate you having me on. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure. I have not had a conversation this real, to this level of depth in quite a long time. So thank you for allowing this to happen.
More than welcome, bro. More than welcome, man.
You guys, this brings us to our close. It's been an awesome journey here. I know you've enjoyed it, because I've enjoyed it too much that you couldn't have enjoyed it. So Austin doesn't really do social medias. I don't have anything from him, but
my email, you can drop my email if you want, if anybody wants to reach out.
Okay. I'll leave Austin's email in the description of this video, and feel free to reach out to him after you've seen this episode. Let him know what you thought personally, and just encourage him and let him know that you're praying, guys. Because as you see, like, he receives prayer, he loves it. So
yes,
he'll take all forms of it.
Yep.
I thank you guys for the time. I know some of you guys hung out for the whole entire 2.5 hours, which is a huge ask. Some of you were in the middle of work coming in to see it. So thank y'all. And I pray that you guys have a blessed weekend. What a way to go into Friday, everyone. So I'll say, until next time, thank you for watching. This has been your host, Devontae Colonel, hosting the testimony of one
Austin Legg.
And we bid you guys adieu. Pray you have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you guys next time on the Inspired Challenge podcast. Take care, everyone. And we are out.
Nice.